कहाँ से बात कर रहे हैं आप?
So I'm actually talking from Hazaribagh in Jharkhand itself, and I plan to move to Delhi in a short while.
Okay, when is the actual interview?
So it's in September, September 15th. So I have some time.
Why go so early?
So I'll go by August 10th, August 15th. So I'll get a month. I'll give 4-5 mocks, one every week or something, and just get used to that.
Good. This is the first time you are facing of course, this second attempt, therefore first interviews.
No, sir, this is also my second attempt at interview.
अरे हाँ, तो पिछली बार क्या हुआ?
Sir, पिछली बार GS बहुत खराब हो गया. My optional interview were quite good, but my GS was way below par. I tried to work on it.
कितने मार्क्स इंटरव्यू में कितने मार्क्स मिले थे?
Sir, I got lucky. I got 193.
So there is nothing much for us to really do by way of refining your techniques, etc. However, we'll go through the motion because rather early in the morning by 9 a.m. you finished your bath and you are wearing a suit. Therefore, we must ensure that your time was not wrongly invested in this mock interview. So we'll go through the process. So if you are comfortable, we'll ask questions. Is it okay?
Absolutely, sir.
Hazaribagh is where your father is currently working, or has he retired?
So that is where he's currently working as a junior engineer in the public works department.
So he's still working?
Yes, sir.
Right. You are his eldest son?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
The only child, or?
No, sir, I have a younger brother. He is pursuing medical science.
Very good. You studied in IIT Mumbai, Powai.
Yes, sir.
You worked for a while in Goldman Sachs in Bengaluru.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So, briefly explain in about 3-4 sentences your experience while working in Goldman Sachs. You can talk about the ambience or the nature of work or about Bengaluru city if you had the time to look around. Any of these 3 topics or a combination of all, but not more than 2 minutes. Chalo.
Yes, sir. Sir, I got a chance to work at Goldman Sachs risk division. So we looked at models which priced the securities and took decisions on whether a transaction is going to be profitable for us or not. At the same time, also looked at technology side of it, making some tools that made the work of my team easier. Apart from these, sir, I also had a chance to explore some of the city and the nearby areas. I am a bit of a mountaineer, and I went to 2 treks in the vicinity at Kumar Parvata mountain, which is the second highest peak, and to Mulyangiri, sir. Apart from these, sir, I was also involved with one of the NGOs, Oxfam, and I raised 2 lakh rupees for their fundraiser event and walked 100 kilometers for publicity, sir. Apart from this, sir, I have been in Bangalore a little bit more doing my internships as well. So I have some familiarity with the city. I really admire the lakes, etc., and the waste management facilities at Bangalore. While I was in Bangalore, there was strict waste segregation in my society. The recyclable waste was managed within the campus, while the non-recyclable was given over for recycling. So, sir, I think that is a model which we can emulate to a great extent in many of the other cities where we are facing similar issues of waste management.
Good. So now I'll hand you over to the former Chief Secretary of Telangana State, Dr. M.G. Gopal, and I'm sure he will ask very relevant questions. Gopal Garu?
Yes, sir. Mr. Utkarsh, can you hear me?
Absolutely clearly, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. You have rightly started with the current burning problem in the country, which is the waste management, the solid waste and the liquid waste and hazardous waste, biomedical waste. You didn't tell me how the biomedical waste is being managed in Bangalore.
Sir, I did not see it being handled. All I remember from my side as a resident was that it was collected twice a week, and I was told that it would be burnt in a nearby facility.
Okay. Now, can you tell me what are the rules governing the solid waste management, mandated by Government of India to the towns and municipalities and metropolitans?
Yes, sir. In fact, these are governed under Solid Waste Management Rules 2016 and the
Yeah.
2018 amendment under the EPA Act. So
Okay.
under this, the standards are that the waste segregation has to be done at the source. The biodegradable waste has to be managed in the society itself, if the society is large enough, and the rest has to be outsourced to a recycling facility. Apart from this, sir, the municipality can levy fines and fees for
Good,
on event
good.
organizers and formal producers, etc., so that the
Okay.
waste management is done in thorough basis.
Yes, I understand. I understand. But then tell me, why is that we are not able to treat the wastewater, sewage, the
Yes, sir.
wastewater, sewage and sullage together in the sewage network. Why
Yes,
is
sir.
Bangalore or any other city not able to completely manage wastewater in such a way that it could be after treatment recycled and reused at least for non-potable purposes? Why are we not able to do it in the country?
Yes, sir. Sir, my understanding is that we need a thorough sewage infrastructure, the pipelines and processing, etc. And as per a CPCB report, sir, only 30% of our cities have a good network. So if you don't even have the network which transports the sewage from the producing residential colonies, etc., to the processing plants, that becomes an issue, sir. Further, sir, even the number of processing plants that we have and the technology level, etc., so all of that needs to be stepped up, sir. Apart from this, sir, there are also reports of blockage, etc., in the pipelines, for which we end up deploying manual scavengers, sir, which leads to a whole different issue along with it.
Okay. But how do you think in the olden days when there used to be no sewage network, people used to manage their liquid waste, the septic
Sir,
tanks?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So when you can't retrofit some old areas with sewage network, why are we not able to manage the septic tanks?
Sir, I'm not fully aware, but I believe that many of the already constructed places do not have septic tanks, and we need to incentivize them to build them the way we have incentivized people to build toilets under Swachh Bharat mission.
All right, all right. Yeah, we'll discuss about it later. But tell me, coming back to Jharkhand and the tribals, the demand made and the resolution passed in the assembly that tribals should not be treated as Hindus in the next census. So,
So,
what will happen if they are not treated as Hindus or Christians or whatever? If they are to be given a new religion, what will happen to their reservations?
sir, I'm not aware about the reservation issue. They'll still continue to be under the ST category, sir. So I think they'll continue to have reservation.
Are you aware of the fact that the Chief Minister of Jharkhand, stated, in a forum of Harvard students that tribals are not Hindus. There's something else. It's called Sarnaism. Have you heard
Yes,
of
sir.
it?
Yes, sir. So
So, yeah,
yes,
tell
sir.
me.
So the assembly resolution is basically a recognition of the fact that tribals have their own identity and of way of life and religion that is slightly different from the other major religions, which is, like you pointed out, sir, it's called Sarna religion.
So, we have in the country reservation for scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, BCs, but not for those who pursue something called Sarnaism if they are not part of Hinduism.
Sir, I understand the SC category is primarily in Hindus only, but so
Yes.
they can be covered in the ST category if I'm not mistaken. So they will still get the reservation and a chance to progress.
And there are also some tribals who have converted to Christianity and they get reservation under minority status. Is it true?
I understand there's been some extent of conversion, sir, and so they would get a preference in the minority education institutions, etc. Sir.
Okay. And another question about tribals, about their demand for self-determination of their development in their own habitations and the extension of the Panchayat Raj Act to the scheduled areas. How is the implementation in Jharkhand, if you are aware, please tell me.
Sir, it's actually, we still have not framed the PESA rules. So PESA is not active in Jharkhand at this point.
Okay.
So out of the 10 Schedule 5 areas, 4 states have not made rules, of which one is Jharkhand. However, sir, we are making the rules at this moment. I think it's going to be placed under the cabinet's notice very soon. Sir, in the meanwhile, we have notified ad hoc councils to take care of the work in Schedule 5 areas. This is not the best. This is not the best method, and therefore we are moving towards implementing the PESA, sir.
Okay, good, good, good. Now tell me, you have a mandate, under the Companies Act regarding spending of certain percentage of profits by the corporate sector on corporate social responsibility. So have you seen any perceptible change in any of the sectors in Jharkhand where this, Steel Authority or Tata's, they have spent, and there is some improvement in the way of living of the people in some places, in some sectors, education or health. Is there any perceptible change on account of the CSR investments?
Sir, I've read about investments in skilling in my town, Hazaribagh itself. So, but what I've actually seen is the extent of afforestation that they're doing along one of the famous lakes in Hazaribagh itself, and these get covered under CSR, sir. So I also want to highlight that I was part of a CSR campaign in Bangalore while I was at GS,
Okay.
and we worked with one of the schools in tie-up, sir. It was Ram something school, right outside Bangalore.
No, I'm not interested in Bangalore. I am interested in the CSR expenditure on education or health or any of the requirements in these tribal areas by these huge big giants called Sail and Tata. You said afforestation, all right. Anything else?
Sir, I've read about skilling and education investment in Hazaribagh itself, but I'm not fully aware, sir. I understand that Tata is quite active in Jamshedpur. It also helps in the general administration of the area and the development there. I understand some of that we also considered under CSR.
Okay.
But I'm not aware of the exact there, sir.
It's okay. That's fine. That's fine. Now, you would have seen many projects which are taken up under public-private partnership in the state of Jharkhand or in the country in general. Tell me, what makes a PPP project a successful project? What are the ingredients required in that partnership?
Yes, sir. Sir, I think first and foremost, the concession agreement that needs to be drawn up should reflect the capabilities of the two entities, the government agency and the private agency.
Yes.
In this partnership, sir, we see that the public company brings in the legitimacy and a better recognition for the project, while the private company normally brings in the technology and the expertise and the capital, sir. So one of the most beautiful manifestations of this was under Maruti Suzuki, when we had a tie-up between the government-owned Maruti and the Suzuki company from Japan.
Excuse me. See, I don't know whether there's a technology problem or there's a lag in your speaking and my hearing. Can you speak a bit slowly so that I'll be able to hear?
I'll try to do that, sir.
Yes.
I'll try to do it. Do you want me to repeat the answer I just said, sir?
Yeah. No, please repeat the answer.
Yes, sir. Sir, I said that sir, a basic requirement here is the formation of the concessional agreement, sir. That needs to be considerate of the capabilities of the two entities involved.
Yeah.
The public agency brings recognition and legitimacy for the project, sir, while the private agency brings in the technology and the capital and best practices to make the venture successful. One of the most beautiful manifestations of PPP is Maruti Suzuki, and later is the National Dialysis Mission that happened in healthcare.
Okay. All right. Good. Now, the ease of doing business, the Niti Aayog started giving ranks to the states, and
Yes,
Jharkhand state, jumped up in the ladder, and they have got a very good rank now. Why do you think the ease of doing business perception about Jharkhand has improved so greatly, substantially in the recent 3-4 years?
So one of the most basic reasons here is the political stability. So until the last 5-6 years, we've never had a government that finishes tenure. We've had 3 instances of president's rule. With us, more stable governments, sir, our rules, our procedures, etc., are getting more streamlined, and there's a longer-term policy planning, sir. Further, sir, the government of Jharkhand has also passed a law for single window clearances for the different industries involved, sir. Apart from this, sir, the government is also taking steps to ensure the visibility of Jharkhand not only at a national but at an international level, sir, through events like Momentum Jharkhand to pitch towards investors and attract them here, sir. So I think on top of all of this, the crime perception is going down. Even Naxalism is more under control than it was even 5-6 years ago. The number of affected districts and the events is coming down. So I think all of these are coming together to make a perception that Jharkhand can yield a lot of returns for investors due to its resource richness and the low wages compared to rest of the India, sir. So I think that contributes to the perception.
You didn't comment, you talked about externalities for a business about stable political climate, no political risks and so on and so forth. But in terms of ease of starting a business, getting a single window clearance instead of
Yes, sir.
approaching physically the authorities who have to give clearances, and the ease of exiting the business, some provisions made in the IBC and so on and so forth. These are the factors which are really responsible for the ranks. Other things, the investment climate is good. That is our top class. There's no negotiation about it at all. So that being the case, do you think that if somebody wants to get a clearance or say electricity connection or purchase land which is having no disputes about title, are these factors, is there any qualitative improvement in these factors in the state of Jharkhand?
So I think there are improvements driven by both the center and the state record here, sir. There's a mission called National Mission for Modernizing the Land Records, under which the digitization is ongoing, sir. Over 90% villages have had the records digitized. However, sir, we still have to work on resolving the disputes because these are long pending disputes, often through informal transactions. We even need to enact the Land Titles Act that Niti Aayog has proposed. That will lead to greater clarity, sir. So, sir, the modernization bit has been done, but we need to take steps towards more clarity and dispute resolution, sir.
According to you, what is the definition of a conclusive title?
Yes, sir. So far, our land ownership has been based on a transactional records. So if I have to show the ownership of a record, I have to also ensure that the previous transactions were carried out fine, else my record is in question. By conclusive titling, sir, my record of ownership will be beyond question because the previous transactions have been assumed to be concrete. So, sir, that will mean less document maintenance and less scope for disputes.
So, do you have that system of conclusive title being given by the Revenue Department anywhere in the country, or is there an effort being made by bringing in some kind of a model legislation by Niti Aayog to bring in conclusive title?
So Niti Aayog has in fact proposed a model land titles law to be enacted in different states. But so I'm not aware if any state has adopted that so far.
Yeah, no state, of course, no state. All right. Now, tell me, this insolvency and the bankruptcy code, there are two sides to it. Some people say that, okay, the resolution processes are going on well, but then the haircuts, as they call it, the haircuts that the creditors have been taking is quite high. What is your opinion about the way in which the insolvency and bankruptcy resolutions are being made?
Sir, I want to highlight the World Bank data on this. So before IBC, our recovery was 25%, and that took 2.5 to 3 years to get it, sir. Now, after 4-5 years of IBC, the recovery has gone up to 70%, sir, and that is being recovered in 1.5 to 2 years. So I would say IBC has been a great success. Even the Supreme Court has upheld it. At the same time, sir, the processes are nascent. We need to refine many things. So many procedures are not well defined, which leads to some delays. And sir, the haircut problem keeps coming up, and that will only be refined over time, sir. I think we need to give the law a little bit more chance. So far, it has already yielded a lot of dividend in boosting our recovery, sir.
Okay. Now, before I pass on to my co-panelists, tell me, how do you think that the lateral entry scheme of Government of India, where at directors level or at joint secretaries level, people who have experience in their functional areas are recruited, and whether there would be any conflict of interest in these professionals, you working for Goldman Sachs, going and sitting, say, should you opt for lateral entry as joint secretary in finance, your recommendation to your client from Goldman Sachs will be something.
Absolutely, sir.
And you'll have to take a contrary view in finance ministry, whether there will be any conflict of interest.
Yes, sir. So the move was introduced recently, and 10 joint secretaries are hired. The idea is to bring in talent and best practices from the private sector, and also usher in a bit of competition in the bureaucracy, and a shift towards outcome-led decision making, sir. At the same time, sir, there are concerns, like you pointed out. First and foremost, the conflict of interest, where if I am a lateral hire, I may not work towards the benefit of the government itself, but also to favor my original clients. Secondly, sir, there's also the question of reservation, because these are outside reservation scope so far. And further, sir, there are concerns that these people may not be aware of the ground realities, because they've not risen from the
Okay. Thank you.
crowd of that.
Thank you. Thank
Thank you,
you.
sir.
Vivek.
Hello, Utkarsh. Can you hear me?
Hi,
Hello,
sir. I can
Utkarsh.
hear
Can
you
you
very
hear me?
well.
Yeah. Good.
Good morning, sir.
Morning. Very good morning. Now, to catch up with the national scenario, recently Union government they set up one new ministry called Ministry of Cooperation.
Yes, sir.
But then the news was received by different people differently. What is the problem? After all, if a new ministry is created, generally there should be some kind of an enthusiasm that okay, perhaps this particular sector is going to witness you know some improvement, some changes, better functioning and all that. But quite a
Yes,
lot
sir.
of people have expressed apprehensions. So what are the issues? Can you briefly give me a broad survey of what is this whole problem is about, and what is the way forward?
Yes, sir. So the Ministry of Cooperation is set up to promote the cooperative movement across the country. With the center having better access to capital and expert advice from expert institutions, it is expected that the policies and decisions will be better formulated, and a guidance to the states can be provided. At the same time, sir, cooperatives being a stateless subject, there are fears that this could lead to centralization of the process and a lack of sensitivity towards the state level issues, sir. However, I think, sir, these are relatively smaller fears, sir, because we have seen ministries on state level subjects even before, such as in health and agriculture, sir. And so these ministries bring in very effective schemes like the Ayush Mission, sir. So, uh, Ayush Mission and Ayushman Bharat, sir. So, in my opinion, I'm quite hopeful about the prospects of changes to the new ministry, sir.
Generally seen as some kind of a big brotherly attitude, and also centers
Yes, sir.
overreach.
Yes,
So
sir.
how do we repel that kind of, or at least assuage the feelings of states that it's a very benign move, and it's also meant to improve the overall cooperation ecosystem in our country?
Yes, sir. So this attitude has developed due to multiple issues in the way the federal system has run. For example, sir, the misuse of the office of governor, be it in terms of appointment, in terms of recommending Article 356, or be it the interference in day-to-day activities like we've seen in Bengal, sir. Even secondly, sir, traditionally we have seen a center-down approach, most prominently visible in the Planning Commission, where the schemes are formulated from a central basis and the states were seen more as a rubber stamp, sir. So, in my opinion, the way forward should be a more collaborative and cooperative approach here. So, Niti Aayog is a great example where states become the decision makers and a more bottom-up decision making is going on, sir. Even GST Council is such a good example of consensus-based decision making on the taxation, sir. I understand.
No. I'm only interested in sorting out this cooperation issue. I'm not talking of the general perception that has arisen out of the recent move of setting up cooperation ministry. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, how center can assuage the feelings, maybe ill-founded, maybe well-founded, but
Yes, sir.
how they can reassure that it is not an encroachment on the state's sovereignty or state's autonomy. What steps can be taken? And are you aware of any recent Supreme Court decision on this issue?
Yes, sir. So the Supreme Court judgment that struck down parts of 97th Amendment dealing with cooperatives that gave a confidence that cooperatives are a state subject in fact, and encroachment cannot be done directly. The Supreme Court, in fact, said what cannot be done directly cannot be done indirectly as well. So I think this will improve the faith in the system, including judiciary, that any untoward move will eventually be struck down. So I think that can boost the confidence in this area.
Now, to start out the issues between center and state, are there any institutional arrangements apart from
Uh,
political initiatives or political proactiveness? Apart from that, are there any institutional initiatives, institutional
so I would say
arrangements?
yes, sir. So like I mentioned in a previous answer, both Niti Aayog and the GST Council provide a consultation approach between the center and the states. Apart from this, sir, there's also the Interstate Council for cooperation
Yeah,
between the
yeah,
center
yeah.
and the states.
Okay, the state council is the the right, institutional approach. Anyway, um, now in this cooperation ministry, what is the role of the center? In which areas it can actually step in and try and change the scenario?
Yes, sir.
What
So I
are the
think first and
sectors? What
foremost,
are the sectors in which the center's initiative can yield some good result?
yes, sir. I think first and foremost, there is a capital shortage, especially in terms of formal credit, which ails the cooperative sector, especially in the eastern India like UP and Bihar. So I think center's intervention can ensure greater fund availability and ensure that the funds go to the cooperatives. Secondly, sir, I think the center can also take steps to promote the level of professionalism in the governance, sir. Um, so I think these two are the major focus areas here, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Now, we also keep hearing about what is called right to be forgotten. What is that context in which this expression is now getting circulated in the media?
Yes, sir. Sir, the idea is that
So,
with the advent of internet, anything and everything we say or are involved in remains searchable for eternity through search engines. And there are concerns that some of these could jeopardize one's career prospects and image, etc. So that we have seen two cases in the judiciary where people have come forth and asked the judiciary to order the technology companies to take these requests off the internet, sir. That is the
okay,
context, sir.
okay, right. Now, quite interesting that in spite of your academic pressure of having to study for your course, that too in a premier institution like IITs and all that. I find that you have had a brief stint in basic mountaineering at Manali.
Yes,
How
sir.
did you find time to do this? Was it as simultaneously you did this while you were in IIT, or was it after your course, or
So
even
this
before?
was during my summer vacation while at IIT Bombay itself, sir. Uh, we
Uh-huh.
get a 2 month vacation in every year, and while the second and third years are normally used for internships, we have a bit of flexibility in the first year. So some people take up some
Okay.
projects. I had a chance
Okay.
to go to mountaineering.
Mm-hmm. No, but what made you choose of all? There are so many options in life. Someone would play cricket, someone would play basketball, things like that. And
Yes, sir.
quite interesting that you have chosen mountaineering. Uh,
Sir,
were there
I've
any
been
influences on you, and were you earlier exposed to mountaineering or read some stories? What
sir.
exactly
Actually,
motivated you to choose mountaineering?
yes, sir. Sir, I actually had been to some
Yeah.
mountains as part of family trips. So we went on the well-explored tourist locations.
Oh,
However, when I got a chance to go and see the less explored locations, so that really excited me. In fact, so in my first year, I went on 2 treks with the adventure club of the institute. We went to Sandan Valley and one more place. So when I got a chance to be a part of a course, I thought this would be a institutionalized way of learning and exploring, sir. And it was one of my best experiences of my life, sir.
good, good. What difference did it make to Utkarsh? Your
Sir,
exposure to course in mountaineering. What difference did it make to Utkarsh as a person?
Yes, sir. So I think first and foremost, it instilled a bit of discipline in me. Until then, I had been good academically, but I had not focused a lot on sports and fitness. There, for 1 month, we were forced to wake up at 4:30 in the morning, go for a 5 kilometer run, come back, exercise for an hour, etc. That instilled a habit of fitness and discipline, sir, which is something I still cherish. Secondly, sir, I would say it inculcated an interest in mountaineering and trekking, sir. It's something I continued in the rest of my college years and even at Bangalore while I was at Goldman Sachs. And thirdly, sir, I would say this has become a great stress buster for me. So whenever I've had a few months, I've had 6 months or 8 months of high stress life. For me, 2 or 3 days in the mountains serves as a great way to de-stress and get back my rhythm, sir.
What do mountains teach us? Do they teach us anything, or is there anything to learn from mountains? Because
Sir, I would say
mountaineering has done
first
you
and
some
foremost,
good. Mountaineering has done you some good. It made you get up early in the morning and all that. It made you more fitter, and in any way, in any case, you are a young man, so fitness is bound to be there. But apart from that, at some philosophical level or at some abstract level, what has a mountain taught you?
sir, we are there in those remote locations where nature thrives so powerful.
Hmm.
I think it really inculcates the sense that we are relatively powerless as humans. And if we don't respect nature, sir, it will eventually overpower us. And sir, I think I can link this to the various climate change events that are going on around, which I would say many of our activities have brought them upon us. I think that's one way of interpreting of what mountains teach us, sir.
Yes, yes. So that brings you a lot of humility, doesn't it?
Yes,
That man is very small when he is pitted against nature, right? That makes
indeed,
you
sir.
very humble, right? Okay, good. Yeah. No, are there any challenges associated with mountaineering, or is it all fun and?
No, no, absolutely not, sir.
Okay.
I would look at this from three angles.
Mhm.
First and foremost, from a mountaineer, sir. For a mountaineer, he needs to be aware of the route that he's taking, or else he could get lost. There are concerns of hazards like landslides and avalanches, sir, especially when we trek in Himalayas. There's also concerns of a wild animal conflict here, sir. Secondly, sir, I would say the ecological impact of it. With trekking becoming more popular, sir, we have seen mushrooming hospitality resorts, etc., sir, which provide a packaged pay of trekking. Especially, sir, the Wayanad was in news recently for this in this context, sir. There's also the waste dumping in these areas and the exposure of pristine areas to humans, which could affect these, sir.
Yeah, yeah, I understand what you're saying. So, in the context
Yes,
of
sir.
recent Chamoli disaster, the Niti Aayog has made certain recommendations. It has given almost some kind of a prescription. Are you aware of the broad contours of the prescription? What
So
Niti Aayog?
I've not read it. I'm sorry.
Okay. But by the way, since you were mentioning about mountaineering, ecological balance,
Yes,
be
sir.
it trash, mounting trashes, etc.
Yes,
What
sir.
is meant by carrying capacity?
Yes, sir. So for an ecosystem, its carrying capacity means the amount of wastes or the amount of cycling that it can do
Mhm.
to keep the system sustainable. This can mean waste management. This can mean conversion of carbon dioxide to oxygen. This can mean nutrient cycling from water, etc. So that's the context of nutrient
Yeah.
of carrying
Any
capacity.
young, when our country is known for lots of engineering colleges, we produce uh, lakhs and lakhs of engineers every year
Yes, sir.
from the general engineering colleges and prestigious institutions like IITs and all that. And quite a
Yes, sir.
lot of them are very innovative young men and women. And to leverage their intelligence and enthusiasm, the government started what is called Startup India and all that, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, in this context, there are certain changes were also made to the Companies Act. Are you aware of the facility that is given to these young entrepreneurs?
Sir, I
What is the
understand the
legal framework? What is the legal framework which facilitates these young men and women to start companies and?
Sir, I understand many benefits of provided under Startup India.
Mhm.
I can highlight some of the legal implications of that. I'm not aware of the amendment to Companies Act per se, sir.
But what is the legal framework that has, that enables now that facilitates, these young men and women to set up enterprises?
Yes, sir. Sir, first and foremost, sir, the regulatory certifications are relaxed. They're allowed to self-certify themselves for the time being.
Okay.
Secondly, sir, there are some taxation benefits,
Mhm.
such as not having to pay capital gains tax in the initial years. Even the company tax is reduced significantly. Thirdly, sir, we have also adopted a more liberal definition of startups. As a company which has been existent for less than 10 years and has a turnover less than 100 crores. So, sir, I would say all of these come together to make it
Okay.
easier
Yeah.
to
Okay. But
be startup.
yeah, in this context, have you come across a new term called one-person company?
Uh, I haven't
Uh,
come across it,
no.
sir. Although,
Okay. What could be the overall structure of a one-person company, and how is it different from the existing models of companies?
yes, sir. So, with a one-person company, the entire responsibility will fall on the shoulder of one person, who would himself be the workforce of the company, will be the management decision maker, as well as the board for taking decisions, sir. So, I think there will be a lot of responsibilities that he would have to ensure while
That's a, we'll come back to it.
not
Okay. I
overcoming
understand.
conflict of interest.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Now, finally, tell me, since you are a mountaineer, what is the difference? How do you distinguish between a hill and a mountain?
Yes, sir. Sir, my understanding is that hills are smaller mountains, and when we have and often hills are standalone hills compared to mountains, which are often in a range.
How do we classify them intuitively, or is there any agreed, let's say, definition or approach?
Sir, I'm not aware of any
Okay.
definition.
Okay. Did they not teach you to begin with in Manali Institute? How do you distinguish between a hill and a mountain? Okay.
Sir, they may have. I don't remember at this point.
Okay, good. And finally, tell me what type of mountains are Himalayas?
Sir, they are young fold mountains formed by the
Okay,
movement of
good.
the
Excellent.
Indo-Australian.
Excellent, Utkarsh. My co-panelist will continue this conversation with
Thank you,
you.
sir.
Right.
Mr. Utkarsh, good morning.
Hi, good morning, sir.
So you are from Jamshedpur.
I was born in Jamshedpur, sir. I'm currently
Yeah,
living in Hazaribagh.
yeah. So it is just like an oasis in the desert, like because long back, the vision of a great man created a big city in Jharkhand. Now
Yes,
tell
sir.
us, Mr. Utkarsh, how did it happen? How Jharkhand was fortunate to get the vision of Tata, Jamshedji Tataji?
Yes, sir. So Jamshedji Tataji was attracted to this region because it offered a lot of potential for setting up iron steel plant.
So how many were
These
there
ma-
in the team?
Sir, I'm not aware of that level of detail. I'll look it up, sir.
Okay, now go ahead.
Yes, sir. So the region offered access to rich coal reserves of bituminous quality. It
Hmm.
also offered iron hematite grade.
Hmm.
At the same time, sir, with the availability of peninsular rivers, there was scope for hydroelectricity generation. So all of these combined to create a very favorable atmosphere for setting up an iron steel plant at a time when there were not many plants in India itself, sir.
Hmm.
So that's how the investment began. And as it flourished, Jamshedji needed a housing facility for his employees, and that's how
Yes.
the city emerged slowly, sir.
So what is the vision given by Jamshedji while going for this type of township or the facilities for the workers?
Sir, I'm not exactly aware. No, I'm
It's
sorry,
okay.
sir.
It's okay. It's okay. Uh, Utkarsh, you are from Jharkhand. So Jharkhand was created with a lot of aspirations, especially for the
Yes, sir.
tribals. But the
Yes, sir.
tribals were disappointed because there are so many other issues left unaddressed. Can you identify at least a few problems which need immediate action to satiate the aspirations of the tribals.
Yes, sir. So I want to highlight that the Jharkhand movement was for tribal aspirations, like you pointed out, and many of these aspirations are getting fulfilled. In fact, be it in the terms of representation in the ministry or greater jobs in the administration, etc. At the same time, so there are certain issues that remain. First and foremost would be, sir, the proposal for dilution of tenancy acts for land acquisition. Secondly, would be, sir, the PESA rules in the state, sir.
Yes.
So thirdly, I would say would be the development of the regions, especially so right next to Jamshedpur, there is Chaibasa, whose malnutrition and healthcare indicators are some of the worst in the country itself, sir.
Yes.
So, sir, the job employment and the investment of companies and the resulting development in the region, sir, they need to be acted upon on priority, sir.
So what about this domicile policy, the mineral mining? So there are many issues which are opposed by the tribals, but they are still going on.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. The Gram Sabhas have not been empowered and their voices have relatively been ignored.
Yeah. Utkarsh from Jharkhand, I think you all heard about the GA tag. So GA, for one thing, Jharkhand got one GA tag. Can you give that item?
Sir, it was given last year for Sohrai and Khovar paintings, which in fact comes from my own, from the place I'm currently in, Hazaribagh.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, that's right. I think you all heard about Stan Swami.
Yes, sir.
So tell us why he was the news.
Sir, he was an activist in multiple spheres, including the rights of the imprisoned under trial in the tribal areas of Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, etc. Sir, that was a major reason what brought him into the light after his death in custody.
Now, why was he detained?
Sir, there was some evidence found which linked him to, which made him liable under the UAPA Act, for which he was put in prison, sir. And with the pendency of cases, sir, his case did not come up for trial in the judiciary.
So, what exactly this act which detained Stan Swami?
So, I understand it was a UAPA Act, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, which is the primary act in the country to tackle terrorism, both at the organizational and the individual levels.
So this act is also in news because the Supreme Court of India is now concerned with some of the acts. Now tell us what is wrong with this WAPA, that's called the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act.
Yes, sir. So the concern is that the very basic term terrorism is not defined in the act. That leads to a very wide interpretation of the term, sir, and has a chilling effect on the freedom of speech and expression. We have seen the usage of this to suppress activism and dissent as well, sir, such as in the 3 students who were arrested in Delhi. Right. So we need more safeguards to ensure the law is not misused, sir. Similar to how we need it for sedition and national security acts.
So what is your view? Should we keep this in the IPC or should we remove this section?
So we're talking about UAPA?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So I think it's a definite need given the terror vulnerability of the nation. We have seen attacks like Pulwama and early 2011, and this provides a legal framework for tackling with them. But so the law should be used for the reason it is brought in. The definitions need to be updated, and the Supreme Court guidelines in 2011 that for a law as stringent as UAPA, the interpretations must be as strict as possible. For example, when we talk about association with an organization, it must mean active participation, not just a membership of the organization. So I think so we should one clearly define terms like terrorism. 2, stick to most strict definitions like Supreme Court said, and 3, have provision for compensation, etc., for individuals who are wrongly trialed under UAPA.
All these things are very nice, Utkarsh, because on paper they will be very nice. But what happens is when a shode is given to you, and given some instruction that show should be used for this thing, but you are using show for some other purpose. What the CJ
Yes, sir.
said, that when a saw is given to you to cut a tree, but what happens is the people are taking the saw to cut the entire forest. So that's what is happening today. So under these circumstances, so what should be the way forward in this particular WAPA?
Sir, concerning UAP itself, WAPA itself, I think the three way forwards I mentioned seem relevant. However, sir, like you pointed out, the underlying issue is the presence of a sword and the mentality or attitude of the sword bearers. Sir. In this case, sir, it's the police and the politicians. So that is why we need police reforms and tackling the pendency of the cases so that false cases either do not arise or are tackled at the earliest. Sir.
Yeah,
In my
that's nice.
opinion, that
Okay,
is
Utkarsh,
the goal we
let's
need
move
for.
on to the COVID. So today we are now having this issue. Now tell us, what is the issue with the COVID with the tribals? So in the urban areas, we faced a bigger problem, but a bigger problem, much bigger problem is that with the tribals. So how is this tackled in Jharkhand?
Sir, indeed, tribals are more vulnerable because one, they are relatively cut from the mainstream society, so their awareness of COVID and understanding of what how it spreads, etc., is not that great. Secondly, they're also sir, more vulnerable because of their malnourishment and lack of access to healthcare facilities, sir. And thirdly, sir, even the government interventions such as vaccination, etc., uh, are not that effective either because of hesitancy or because of the remote terrain here, sir. Sir, the government of Jharkhand is instituting better household to household delivery of the vaccine to ensure that there's greater counseling and availability. So we are trying to do that. But sir, that needs to be stepped up. It's not enough, sir.
Okay, Utkarsh, what we observe is that education is now badly affected in this COVID period.
Yes, sir.
So basing on your experience in Jharkhand, so what is the way how this education is being affected in your area?
Yes, sir. So the pandemic has forced us to move on to a digital education model, which its benefits also brings a lot of disadvantages, including a digital divide, the stress on the students, the lack of socialization, and sir, greater handicap for specially abled children. Sir, the government has taken certain steps in Jharkhand. First and foremost is usage of alternate means to reach to reach those who are beyond the divide. For example, usage of DTH and radio for passing on the study material. At the same time, sir, with the lack of smartphones, etc., the education being affected. We have created device banks where people can donate laptops and mobiles, sir. It's still in a very nascent stage, but we have there was a news of donation of two devices in Chatra yesterday itself, sir.
Yeah.
I think those are two ways, sir.
Utkarsh, in this respect, there is a phrase called blended learning. Have you heard this?
Sir, I'm not aware of this term, sir.
It's okay. Utkarsh, you are, I think, well aware of the system of education in Jharkhand. Jharkhand is fairly literate state compared to other states. Though it is educationally, it's not that much advanced like Kerala, but education is okay. So I think the average is around 67% in your state.
Yes, so that is correct.
Yeah. Now let us take this to a forward, because in a tribal state, what is important is education is very, very important. Suppose if you are made the Secretary of Education, whatever policies you are going to enforce for Jharkhand?
Yes, sir. So I'm the secretary at the state level.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
Jharkhand
sir.
state.
Yes, sir. So first and foremost, the huge teacher shortage in Jharkhand, sir. An Indian Express report showed that 67% of our requirement is not being met. So we need to hire on a greater scale, both contractual and full-time teachers to meet the deficit, sir. Secondly, sir, with the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, we created a number of schools. However, sir, I think we also created more number of schools than required, because now the teacher to student ratio and the number of students in the schools are on the lower side, sir. So my focus will also be on consolidation of the schools
Mm.
to rationalize the number.
Mm.
Thirdly, sir, would be the investment in infrastructure like playgrounds, laboratories, and classrooms, sir. And fourthly, sir, I would also help to develop a curriculum which is more tailored towards the tribal needs, sir, especially in the remote areas.
Mm.
We have seen how if the curriculum is more tailored, that can lead to a dramatic increase in the enrollment rate, sir. This we saw in the interventions of IS OP Chaudhary in Dantewada, Chhattisgarh. I would use that as a model to develop better curriculum in Jharkhand in collaboration with the academicians, sir.
Mm. Finally, Utkarsh, what is this problem with Assam and Mizo? It is in news.
Yes, sir. So there is some territorial dispute, some portion of land is claimed by both of the states, and this led to a violent altercation between the police force in the region and the law and order problems.
So, what is the way out for this? Because this type of border issues are there with China and India, and
Yes,
we
sir.
got with Pakistan and India. So we got to the state issues also. Then what is the way out for this?
Yes, sir. Sir, here both of the states need to resolve the issue based on peaceful and dialogue-based mechanisms, sir. Any resortment to violence will escalate the issue between two states of the same country, which is not, it's a really bad situation, sir, compared to even international disputes. Sir, further, sir, I think we would consider a more institutionalized mechanism for dealing with the disputes, because you've seen the disputes in other areas as well, sir. Be it Belgavi between Maharashtra and Karnataka, be it some villages of Keonjhar and Mayurbhanj between Jharkhand and Odisha, or be it between Nagaland and some of its neighbors, sir. We could consider a forum within interstate council.
Utkarsh, it's nice talking to you. Over to Somsekhar.
Thank you so much, sir.
Very good morning, Utkarsh.
Good morning, sir.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Now, in the last 1 week, this Pegasus spyware Snoopgate has been, hitting headlines, a lot of discussion, a lot of controversy. What is wrong with surveillance? Why can't government gather information? What is the issue now central to this controversy?
Yes, sir. So surveillance is indeed a tool which is permitted by the laws like Indian Telegraph Act and the Information Technology Act. So the concern here is that the Pegasus surveillance seems to be out of the ambit of law. So there are two situations here. Either this was permitted by the government, in which case this was permitted without considering the law, that is the Information Technology Act, or it was not permitted by the government, in which case this is an intrusion by non-state actors into the privacy and lives of people, which is against the right to privacy and basic rights. That is why
what is the stand of the government on this?
Sir, the government has so far denied using Pegasus, and further stated that the laws of the country are such that such a surveillance cannot occur.
And what does the company, Israeli company NSO say?
Yes, sir. Sir, it says that the list of names that are published are not necessarily the ones who are surveilling, but could be just of interest. And further, it also says that the spyware is sold as a tool to tackle terrorism, etc., to government agencies only.
And what is the view of the people who are opposing this? What are the main points that they are raising?
So the major concern is that any surveillance must be within the ambit of the law to ensure that misuse does not happen, and there are safeguards as to who get surveilled. It should be the terror groups and not opposition the country, sir. So the demand for the people who are opposing this is that an inquiry should be set up either by the government or the judiciary to investigate who approved the surveillance and who is getting the data, so that the guilty can be tried as per the law, sir.
Is there any provision to, do surveillance as per law, or who can be, brought under surveillance? Is there any legal provision for that, or is there any time frame, or who can be brought under surveillance?
Sir, this surveillance is governed by the Indian Telegraph Act, under which phone tapping can be done, and the Information Technology Act, whose under Section 69, intelligence agencies can read and access content. So both of these are meant for security purposes, and I believe they are approved by a bureaucrat at least the secretary level in the Ministry of Home Affairs.
So is it a new phenomenon, or has it been, a controversy earlier also?
Yes, sir, indeed, the controversy has happened earlier as well, because the number of requests that were being approved seemed very high for one individual to approve. So there were concerns that they are being approved as a rubber stamp without enough diligence. Sir.
So coming to IIT Mumbai,
Yes, sir.
of late, I think there are quite a few startups and entrepreneurs who are making headlines. Bhavish Agarwal and Ankit Bhati.
Yes, sir.
Two of your seniors. What did they start?
So they started Ola, the cab aggregator company.
How has it been doing? Is there a good culture of entrepreneurship and encouragement to ideas at IIT Bombay?
I would say yes, sir. We have a very well developed incubator called Lab, where the students get mentorship and advice, as well as formal credit access through SIGN. At the same time, sir, there are also entrepreneurship-based courses which help students imbibe that mindset. One of my batchmates, in fact, sir, is running a chatbot company which came out of the incubator system at IIT itself. There's also, sir, the Powai Valley, which is right next to it, which is called the Silicon Valley of Bombay, because there are a lot of startups in Powai itself, sir. So I would say the overall ecosystem is vibrant, but it is still nascent when we compare it to, say, Bangalore or even Silicon Valley in US, sir.
Okay. And from your same IIT, another alumni named Sharjeel Imam has also made headlines in the country for completely different reasons. Have you heard about him? What has he done, and why is he popular or unpopular?
So I understand you're one of the accused in the Delhi riots, especially for his speeches, etc. But I'm not fully aware of the issue, sir.
In fact, he is a CSC,
yes, sir.
BTech and MTech. He also studied in JNU and has been very active in several agitations.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you also had a stint with Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs launched a major global initiative around 2008 to encourage women entrepreneurs. Are you aware of it? And what is the Indian program that they had launched?
Sir, I'm not aware of this issue. I know other initiatives that Goldman Sachs is taking for diversity. I'm not aware of this.
Goldman Sachs 10,000 women initiative.
I'll look this up, sir.
Okay. Now you are also a fitness chef, mountaineering, and sports activities. You must be following the Olympics, which are on now. Okay. Now, in one of the athletes named Anna Kiesenhofer from Switzerland, she has won a gold medal in cycling.
Okay.
Can you guess what is her profession? Something which akin to your studies and your interests.
Sir, I'm not aware. I'll look this one up as well.
She is a mathematician. Which is your favorite subject?
Yes, sir.
Anyway, and another association of yours has been with Oxfam. Isn't
yes,
it?
Sir.
Where you walked 100 kilometers.
Yes, sir.
Raised a lot of money for them. Now, Oxfam has been in some trouble recently because the union minister, in the according to Index 2020, commitment to reducing inequity brought out by Oxfam, India figures very low. So the Union Ministry disputed it and said something is wrong with it. Are you aware of this?
Sir, I'm not aware of this. Sir.
Okay. So it was nice talking to you.
Thank you so much, sir. It's great talking to you.
Okay, Utkarsh, we have taken exactly 1 hour, which, as you know, is nowhere near the time that the UPSC takes.
Absolutely, sir.
They take about 25 or 20 minutes. How long was your interview?
The 28 minutes.
28. My God. That's an average of what I said. But anyway, so you know how to ensure that the wide range of knowledge that you have is marketed to your advantage in front of the UPSC board by being very brief and crispy answers. I don't have to really say much. So, on the whole, you already got 198.
193, yes, sir.
193. But I would rate you as a 215 type. 215 out of 275. Maybe you will get it this time. I really don't know. But you are of that level. Very good in communications. No trace of a Bihari at all in you. Obviously, Ranchi and you studied in Hazaribagh or in Jamshedpur?
Sir, I studied in Hazaribagh, but it was an English medium school. So,
Ranchi also has beautiful schools.
Yes, sir.
So, impeccable English. So, what
so my
is
school
the
has, my school has in
me.
fact been featured at national level for quizzing and other activities as well. So my president has received a prize from the president of India himself.
Yeah,
So,
I vaguely
we have a
remember
good culture.
seeing the performance of your school on the television some years ago. Good. So your parents have done a lot of good to you by sending you to that school. I don't know whether it was very expensive or you had a scholarship. I really don't know.
No, sir. It was DAV, so it was slightly on the expensive side compared to other schools here. But
Okay.
on the whole, it was fine.
Good, excellent. So I'm sure you will do very well and you will walk into the IAS. There is no doubt about that. Nevertheless, since we had invested 1 hour and you had invested much more than 1 hour in trying to get ready, the tie knot itself takes about 5 minutes. Then so many other things. So I will now pass you on to the other members of the panel who will be looking at it from a very critical perspective and tell you which are the areas where you can work a little more so that ultimately you will get the 215 out of 275 in the actual interview. Now I'll hand you over to the former Chief Secretary of Telangana State, Dr. Gopal. Gopal
Yes,
Garu.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes. So, Mr. Utkarsh.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can still be mistaken for a senior Cambridge student appearing for a quiz competition, on the TV, in the ESPN sports show or some other quiz ones. Good, you're looking quite smart and you have acquitted yourself extremely well, as I've seen.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, considering your DAF and your qualifications and the job that you did, I was tempted to bowl some googlies, not simple, balls. Otherwise, you would have hit all the balls for sixes.
That would have been a good learning experience, sir.
Yeah, so purposefully, I tried to bowl some googlies and some pace attacks, but then you took them very well and you handled them very well. One of them is this, Sarnaism, of the tribals to be recorded in the next census as demanded by the Chief Minister. It's a hypothetical question that I wanted to see how you would react, because so far it has not taken place. Usually in the country, we give reservation for castes. So SCs and STs and all that, caste reservations. And minorities have a reservation in educational institutions. They can set up their own educational institutions, etc.
Yes, sir.
They have constitutional provisions. So if the demand of the Chief Minister is agreed to, and if the scheduled tribes are recorded as Sarnas, or whatever name that he wants to call, We don't really know. There has to be a debate whether they will still be considered part of Hinduism and therefore will be entitled for the scheduled tribes reservation, or some of those tribals who are converted to Christian. Now, SCs converted to Christianity are not scheduled castes. They don't get scheduled caste reservations, in many
Yes,
of the
sir.
states. They are called
Yes,
some OBCs or something. So basically, it's a hypothetical question, a food for thought to see if the demand is agreed, whether they will continue to have ST reservation or not. It's an open-ended question. You can keep on thinking about it and deliberate, discuss, and then see what will come out ultimately. So there's no definite yes or no to that answer.
Sir, but there'll still be-
Mizoram and Nagaland have
Yeah.
almost 98% Christianity.
Christianity.
Still, they are getting the reservation as
Yeah, yeah.
tribals, STs.
Yeah. So that's a question. Here, they are not asking for ST status, but they're asking for Sarnaism, something. We don't know whether it's a caste, we don't know what it is. All right, except that we know that they believe in spirits.
Yes, sir. And they worship the natural
Yeah,
instances.
they don't work. And it's a controversial question. See, some people who say that SCs, whether they become Christians or, well, they become Buddhists, they become Jains, there is a reservation available. So it's a big
Yes, sir.
debatable question. That's what I wanted to say. Like the chairman has said, in Mizoram, Northeast, they are still STs. All right.
Yes, sir.
That's one. Secondly, about corporate social responsibility,
Yes, sir.
what is the impact, what is the effect that you would have noticed of the sales expenditure or Tatas? We don't really
Yes, sir.
know. There is no evaluation done. And therefore, in 2019, the law has been amended to say that unspent amounts under corporate social responsibility will have to be credited to a fund. And that will not lapse for 3 years. And if they don't spend for 3 years also, some imprisonment and some penalty procedures. So we don't really know, except that you have seen some good afforestation coming up. We don't know the effect of these CSR investments in the certain sectors like education or health. So you are right.
Yes,
You have replied, indicating what we have seen. That's fair
Yes.
enough. But this evaluation part is also a little bit important because nobody has done that evaluation so far.
Right,
Then
sir.
finally about EODB, you responded well, but then the precise answer expected perhaps would be, you talk generally about the enabling environment getting improved for the prospective investors to invest in Jharkhand by saying that there is
Yes,
a
sir.
political stability and so on and so forth. But this EODB precisely, if you can divide them into three: ease of starting business, ease of running business, ease of exiting from business. Now, ease
Yes,
of
sir.
starting business, like building approvals, permissions, in our states also, it used to take a lot of time to get the town planning permission. Now it's a single window clearance. There's a software available. You upload your documents. If you don't get clearance, it's a deemed clearance. So many
Yes,
states,
sir.
after the EODB concept has been started, have improved upon it. Similarly, clearances, electricity clearances, etc., etc. Then ease of running business, the investors, the businessmen used to get harassed, by multiple inspections. One labor inspector goes and inspects, a factory's inspector some other point of time, somebody else. So to avoid duplicity and multiplicity of inspections, several states have brought in reforms to say, by informing in advance, a team of officials would come and inspect once in 6 months or once in 1 year. They won't harass you anymore. So that's ease of running business. And ease of
Yes, sir.
closing business. Closing business is this IBC and things like that. So
Yes, sir.
this is what actually I expected from you, but you have taken that question well. When I gave you hint, you started responding well.
Sir, this is one thing, sir.
Yes.
I want to interfere.
Yeah.
Sir, you asked me specifically what government of Jharkhand has done to boost EODB because we had made such a huge jump in the rankings.
Correct.
Sir, IBC, etc. are not exactly implemented by the state of Jharkhand. That's why I didn't bring them up.
But
Do you
other
think I should
two,
have?
no, IBC is nationally applicable to all states, in insolvency and bankruptcy code. But then the other things, like if you have to divide these into three parts, ease of
Yes, sir.
starting and ease of running, Jharkhand has
Agreed,
done
sir.
a lot.
Yes, sir.
And this is common to all states.
I'll read up more about this, sir.
Yeah. So I think overall, since I told you I bowled googlies, so you were expected to answer in the manner in which you answered very well. Absolutely. Wherever you didn't know, you said, sorry, I don't know. And you are
Thank
already
you.
a tested material, and be what you are and keep it up. I wish you all the best.
So just one question, sir, before we.
The
please.
chairman will give
Sir-
you time at the end of the feedback given by all members. He will give you time. You can raise questions. We'll respond.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Utkarsh, There are quite a lot of positives you have, but then there are also some areas where perhaps you should exercise a bit of caution and restraint. Okay, I found that you have a tendency to simply grab the question. Your response is more quicker than necessary. So I would urge you to first listen to the question, maybe give a pause for a few seconds at least. When we were discussing about this cooperation ministry and issues, and I was interested in knowing how the center is proposing to assuage the feelings of overreach and big brotherly attitude. Then you went on a tangent.
General issues.
Totally, you started talking about GST Council and all that. So I think this arises because you think that okay, you know everything about cooperation center, so therefore you start reeling out whatever on the subject, which is not the ideal approach, because
Yes, sir.
you are not only not meeting the demand of the question, but you are also wasting your time and also the time of the board. An unconnected, irrelevant answer. So therefore, I would sincerely advise you to reflect for a few seconds, then respond to the demand raised by the question. So,
Yes, sir.
in this particular instance, the overall role of the new ministry should be to be a mentor, a guide philosopher, and also manage interstate cooperatives. There are cooperatives which are
Yes,
not
sir.
merely confined to the states, but there are
Yes, sir.
pan-Indian cooperatives. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Therefore that is where the role for the union government is clearly cut out. And if they can assuage, give a reassurance to the states that we are only here to manage pan-Indian cooperatives, but not poke our nose into state level cooperatives. Probably that could be one way of you know comforting the states. Okay, that's one. And secondly, in any case, the Supreme Court has very clearly said, the lines dividing the role and the jurisdiction are now very clear. So
Yes,
the
sir.
center will only manage pan-Indian cooperatives. The states will have their own sovereignty over their own local cooperatives. So therefore, if center can reiterate this and also reassure the states that okay, we are only here to guide you and then support you and not interfere in your state level cooperatives, that would be the best way forward. And apart from that, instead of mentioning about GST council and all that, I was asked, trying to know from you, what is the institutional arrangement to sort out issues between center and state? The simple answer would have been, you came to it rather late. Only after some confusion, you came to that point of interstate council, which is currently not really working. So
Yes, sir.
therefore, there is a need to revive it, make it more active, make it more vibrant, sit across the table and then sort out issues. So that is the institutional arrangement we have. Okay. So now this whole problem, why it has arisen, is because the moment you heard center state cooperation, you picked up these two words and you started talking things. So therefore, please pause for a few seconds and
Yes, sir.
try and see what is the demand raised by the question, and then structure your answer accordingly. So that
I'll work on that, sir.
so that you create an impact, and you also save time. You also save your time and the board's time, and also that will ensure you a better score. Okay. And
Yes, sir.
secondly, on this issue, somehow I felt that you have batted for the union government. You had the tendency to support the initiative of the union government. Per se, I'm not saying that you should do it or you should not do it. Not that I say, I'm trying to say that everything that union does it, or everything in this particular case, what the union has done is not correct. I'm not saying that you should neither bat for the center nor bat for the state, but you should have summed up the issues properly. But your answer somehow tended to justify uh, more heavily towards the union's initiative of creating this ministry, which means the merit in the argument of the states has not received its due weightage, because there are also merits on the side of the states arguments that it is an encroachment because it's in the list 2 and therefore the center should not have interfered and all that. But then that part has not received adequate treatment in your answer. So therefore, if you can strike a balance between the two, then your answer would have been more objective, more neutral. So therefore, at least in this particular issue, I felt that you tended more towards the center. I don't know the reason why. Perhaps you also feel strongly that it is a right move. I really do not know. Or perhaps you are under the impression that you are offering yourself as a candidate for an all India service. So therefore, you should support the center's move. That I do not know. But in any case, it would be helpful if you can strike a balance between, in any controversy, between the two sides of the coin. Okay?
Yes, sir.
And finally, you also have this tendency to speculate and give answers. When I found that you are one-person company, you started just rambling something whichever came to your mind. It was totally unnecessary, a totally irrelevant kind of response. You see, one-person company, the context is that, as I told you, I gave you a background also. A lot of young men and women, they want to come up with enterprises, and therefore to facilitate setting up companies. So with all the protections of liabilities, share capital issues, and they will have more or less the same advantages of a limited liability companies. But then you started, everything rests upon the shoulders of one person, this, that, and all. In generalities, you started talking. So which gives me an impression that somehow you feel every question must be responded to. Not necessary. Where you are not sure, you say, well, you have not read so much in detail. You only heard about it. To the extent you are sure, you could have responded. But instead, you speculated. You speculated about its structure, function, and all that. So better avoid that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And on some basics like though it might look a bit trivial, but then a prospective public servant is also supposed to have an eye for detail, because invariably in public service the devil lies in the detail. When you put your signature on a file, you are also supposed to know the subtext, the small print, right? The ability to read between the lines. Okay, so that's why reading carefully and having basics in place is very necessary. The question is the difference between hill and mountain. The agreed definition is it is 1,000 feet. Anything less than 1,000 feet is generally considered a hill, whereas a mountain is spread over a territory with some kind of a features, and then above 1,000 MSL it's known as a mountain. That's a generally agreed definition geographical. Okay, so I think if you can keep these tips in mind, you will certainly cross the 200 marks. I have no doubt in my mind. But except that you exercise some restraint, some caution, pay some attention to the question, and then just don't grab and jump to quick conclusions, right? But otherwise, you have all positives. If you can focus your attention on these few drawbacks and deficiencies, I'm sure you will certainly emerge a winner. All the best to you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Mr. Utkarsh,
Yes, sir.
how many marks did you get in the mathematics last time?
So I got 303 out of 500.
Oh, that means maths and the interview gave you very good marks.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So you got lesser marks in general studies. How many did you get in essay?
So I got 119, which is I think around average or just below average.
Yes. So what we observed by
But
this
my
is that your base in the general studies that is to be improved. So basing on the questions what we have asked, the answers what you gave, what is important is the balanced approach is what is missing in your answers. So sir, Vivek sir has already explained to you as per this corporations are concerned. But when I ask about the Stan Swami, so you batted for the government and the act, OPA. So the OPA Act, you said that because of the terrorism, that act should be there. So that's what you have taken a stand. But actually, this is an issue which is under the consideration of the judiciary and the even judges, the people who worked for the Supreme Court for more years, those people like Lokhor. So those people were not happy with the provisions of this act. Okay, so what are these? Now, exactly, you said that evidence was found in the case of Stan Swami. No evidence was found. In fact, they have not filed any FIR. So they can take 180 days to file the FIR. So no evidence was found. So he was just picked up.
Charge sheet, not FIR.
Yeah,
FIR existed.
Yes,
Charge
sir.
sheet.
Charge sheet. Yeah, charge sheet was not filed. And in fact, it was not at all related to the Koregaon issue also. But he was picked up because the amendment of to the OPA. But here you must also understand that this act is almost violating the human rights, stamping some of the people who are raising their voice of the terrorists, and it is seizing the properties. Suppose if the entire property was seized, then how can this man fight in the courts? So that is another important issue. And another aspect is that the NIA was given exclusive rights, and these people can come and pick the people from any state. So the state is also not in awareness of the who was taken from their own state. So there are many violations are there in this particular section, and hence we must think about from both sides. No doubt the terrorists and the anti-nationalists, they can be dealt in separately, but not in this way. So this is a particular perspective. So from government point of view, they have their own way of putting things. But as a detached observer, as a bureaucrat, you have to see from both sides. So this is what is required while presentation of your answers, so that they can fetch you very good marks.
So what do you think the stance in this case should be?
Yeah, our chairman is going to tell you in detail what stand you have to take here. And coming to other aspects like the Jharkhand issue, the problems which are existing in Jharkhand, I want to know about your attachment to your place. But of course, there also you have to study the real issues. Actually, the culture, the language, sir has given the religion. So these are areas where you have to have broader understanding. And in fact, when I asked about the Jamshedpur, who are the people in that team to bring this steel plant there? There are 3 persons. So you have to know, and I also asked about the vision. He has given a beautiful vision as to how to construct the dwellings for these people. The roads are to be laid. So there are very important aspects. And coming to the last item called the Assam and the Mizo, my intention is to know the facts, the details. Now everybody knows it is about the border disputes. We are aware of that thing. But what is important, and say at the Kolasib in Gujarat and the Kachar, Assam. So that is the area where these people are getting this type of issues. And in fact, from the last so many years, it has been going on. But this has accelerated because of the tweets given by both the CMs. So these people almost accelerated and they made it a worse situation. And in fact, that is not the way how it is to be dealt. So these are the issues I think you may put in your mind while giving the answers. I think the balanced approach is very much required to give an impressive answers to the board. Of course, you got very good marks, but that is that doesn't carry that you are going to get the same mark if you.
Absolutely, sir.
So that's why, yeah, this balanced approach is very much required. If you can do that, Utkarsh, hope that you are going to exceed 200 also. And we want to see you people like you, youngsters, to come to the civil services. And we wish all the best.
Thank you so much, sir. I'll work on these things.
So, Utkarsh, I think you have been quite sharp in your answers and brief and to the point. I think that is one good thing, positive I found. You are also quite clear. If you know the answer, you are stating it. Otherwise, you are saying no. However, I think you need to brush up on current events, current affairs. Some of the things that are happening in the country and globally connected to you. I think that would be useful as a way of adding to some of the gaps in your information. This Goldman Sachs project is a global project of empowering 10,000 women entrepreneurship. In India, they are doing it with IIM Bangalore, and already 1,600 women have been trained in entrepreneurship. Similarly, the Oxfam India, I think, they brought out a report in March 2021. As per the global index, India ranks 151st among 158 countries in workers' rights, of which the Union Labour Minister Gangwar, had his own answer, response, the points, the parameters, and all that. So I think in terms of the question on Pegasus, I think your answer is quite exhaustive. So overall, I think we wish you all the best.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, Utkarsh, you have been waiting, I suppose, to ask a few questions.
Yes, shoot.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So my first question is to Gopal, sir,
Yeah.
about his questions on waste management and specifically septic tanks, etc.
Yeah.
Sir, what do you think are the major challenges that I should have mentioned in my answer?
Yeah. Actually, you said the old colonies, the old houses where there is no sewage network, pipelines which carry the sewage, definitely
Yes,
they used to have toilets and they also used to have septic tank. Each house was connected to a septic tank. The challenge
Yes,
is that septage management. The septage management is the waste which gets deposited into the septic tank. And
Yes, sir.
Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation have come out with some technology which is adopted in Warangal district, for instance, in our own state. That's how I noticed. And Administrative Staff College of India is working on that. The septage management, to take out that way, otherwise the septic tank gets filled up. And
Yes, sir.
ultimately, they will have to construct another septic tank. So where it is not possible to lay a sewerage network, by having some kind of tunnels to take the pipelines in built up areas, the septage management becomes very relevant, where through tankers, they take and deposit the waste somewhere else, which is treated in aeration tanks. And then fertilizer, can be, it can be a resource as a fertilizer subsequently. So that is the technology which is called septage, SCPTAGE, septage management. So that's for the retrofitting of the existing areas where already septic tanks do exist. That twin pit latrines always have. Even today, in some villages where you don't have sewage network, every household is given connection to, or 2 or 3 households, be a common septic tank. But then we have neglected all that because, as you said rightly, earlier it was manual scavengers who used to manage this. But today it's all banned. Manual scavenging is banned. So there is a technology that can be used for septic management. That is the answer.
Yes, sir.
Second question, Utkarsh. Anything else you want to ask?
Yes, sir. So my next question was the stance to be taken on UAPA, because
Okay. I am ready with the answer.
Yes,
Number one, you are offering yourself as a candidate to be selected as a member of the Indian Administrative Service. Is there any doubt about that?
No, sir. Absolutely.
Right. Notwithstanding the fact that the present day member of the Indian Administrative Service is perceived as a domestic servant of the ruling party and is willing to do anything when demanded by his political bosses. That's a perception. The theory is every member of the Indian Administrative Service is a good public servant who possesses three qualities. Number one, he is a good listener. That is why Dr. Vivek had to point out that in a quiz, the guy who raises his hand and answers first is a smart kid. But in the Indian Administrative Service, raising your hand and being the first off the block to answer a question does not land you anywhere. It is the impact of your actions that will get you some credit. So you have to listen to all the thousands and myriads of people who come to you. Very often you have no solution. But that kind of a patient listening is necessary. If possible, with a view to find out, is there a solution? Otherwise, at least to understand the problem. Unless you understand the problem, you won't be able to come up with a solution, even eventually. Isn't it? So that habit do you have is what the UPSC board is looking for. Are you a good listener? Number two, do you listen to all types of people, including those who have conflicting views, contrarian views? For example, there is a land dispute. X has come to you first. You have heard him. If you already make up your mind that he is correct, and when the second person wants to present his case, you say, I already know it, this is my decision, then you are not a fair civil servant. So a civil servant by definition will have to hear both sides. Now, in these controversial matters, whether it is UAPA or the 3 farm laws or the creation of a ministry in the government of India for a subject called cooperation, I wish they stated it as interstate cooperation. Then there would be absolutely no misgivings. Many chief ministers would not have raised any suspicions, but they just said cooperation. And giving it to a health minister whose reputation is, is fantastic. For what? Being damaged to the country. Therefore, there are many people who are apprehensive. What exactly is the hidden agenda? So you cannot ignore their opinions or suspicions. So as a good candidate, aspiring to be an IAS officer, if only you presented both the versions as an intelligent observer, not aligning yourself with either of the sides. See, after all, a civil servant is supposed to be neutral. He is not in favor of any particular party. Parties come and go. Whoever is in power, he has to serve them. And when it comes to decision making, he has to act as per the law, including the Constitution of India. Therefore, when you are speaking, maybe under provocation sometimes by the questioner about a controversial matter, you will have to first say, sir, there are two views in this matter. There are some who feel, for example, in the agricultural laws, what they call farm laws, for which 7 months of agitation is still going on from the farmers of Punjab, Haryana, and Western UP. So there are two views. So some people say that ab initio, Parliament has no right at all to make laws on agriculture, which is figuring in the list 2, state list of 7th schedule of the Constitution. There are also many farmers who feel that this may lead to abolition once for all of the minimum support price. There are some who believe that this law that has been made regarding contractual farming is pro-MNCs, is pro-capitalist, and they will ask us to sign a 100-page document in English with a lot of small print, which we don't understand. And if the final decision that they take in buying our produce is to our disadvantage, we cannot go to a judicial court. That has been banned in these laws. These are the views of some of the people who are opposing these laws. There are many others who say that these laws are good because in states like Punjab and Haryana, the mandis, the agricultural market commissions or committees, they are exploiting. They charge 7% fees, and you can't go beyond that artiya, that commission agent, etc. So there are both views, and you keep quiet. When the interviewing board again asks, what is your personal view? It doesn't matter which one you support. Because it's okay, ultimately, a civil servant has to take a final decision. After hearing all the parties, the conflicting parties, and after considering all the pros and cons, he has to take a decision. He cannot avoid decision. He will normally take a decision as per the governing laws and rules in public interest. The decision of a civil servant is generally taken in public interest. Therefore, whatever you feel is in public interest, among those two views, you can say, sir, I believe this is the right way. The same thing applies to this Central Vista, which is a huge project, not merely a construction of a new parliament building. They want to demolish any building which has a name or associated with Indira Gandhi. They want to destroy about 30,000 trees, some of which are 90 years old. They want to ensure that there is a new kind of architecture. So these are all one kind of view. Another kind is, yeah, why should we have this colonial architecture? Who is this bloody Lutyens fellow? Why can't we have a Doshi or some Gujarati architect who is very much Hindutva? There are two views. So which one you support is left to you. But they may not even go to the second part of which one do you support. They're testing. Are you taking into consideration both the points of views? So there are a number of controversial matters which will come up. Pegasus, this and that, UAPA. Now, you mentioned about the right of the government to eavesdrop, to intercept, to snoop. But that can only be done, as you correctly said, under the written orders of a Home Secretary for a limited period. They cannot hack a particular instrument like the computer or the cell phone of an individual. You are interested in, let us say, I am an election commissioner. My name is Ashok Lavasa. I have, in a particular issue, differed with the two other election commissioners and came to the conclusion that what Shri Modi has done, going on several official trips to West Bengal and making a campaign, organizing a campaign for BJP to win in the assembly elections. He said the code of conduct that we have designed in the EC is against this. Therefore, he is committing a wrong under the code. The other two overruled him. That's the end of it. So, whether his wife, who is a retired general manager of the State Bank of India, who is an industrialist, who has her own income tax returns, she's been filing even before her marriage. Whether you have a right to snoop into all these things, whether you have a right to various calls that he made to his daughter, who just got recently married, is that your job? Especially after the Puttaswamy case of Supreme Court, where they said right to privacy is one of the fundamental rights because it is included in the word life as mentioned in the Article 21. no person can be deprived of his personal life or personal liberty except in accordance with procedure established by law. And the law does not give to the Home Secretary or to anybody else who is authorized about the private conversation between a father and a daughter, between a husband and a wife, or the wife's conversations or income tax returns. What have you got to do? She's an individual. She's a separate assessee. If you want, you ask her, can you hack the husband's telephone? So these are views. I'm not asking you to pick up a particular view, but
Yes, sir.
as an intelligent observer, you should have presented both the views. And incidentally, the government, instead of answering on the floor of the parliament, when there was a demand, has this Pegasus spyware been used? The reply of the concerned minister was, no illegal activity was done in this case. Without admitting either that they purchased that spyware and that they're continuing to use the services of NSO to obtain day-to-day, minute-to-minute accounts of various transactions that have gone. They should have said, we never purchased. There are 28 states and 8 union territories. Not one of them has purchased. Government of India has not purchased. We have not had any dealing. Did they say that? No. So there is a scope for a suspicion. Dal mein kuch kala hai. So therefore, there are two views. So if only you presented the other view, we would have rated you as the most ideal person for the civil service. Because civil service, even UPSC with all its faults, when they become members, they are chamchas. But after becoming members, they are like T.N. Seshan. T.N. Seshan was the greatest chamcha Indian administrative service ever saw. But the moment he became Chief Election Commissioner, he cared 2 hoots for all those people who appointed him, who helped him. He said, now I am the Chief Election Commissioner. I shall enforce the law, Representation of People Act. So once you join the IAS, you cannot say, Arey, my origins are from Bihar and there Lalu Yadav is my father's friend and therefore I will support RJD. You will not say that, will you? When it comes to discharge of your official duties, you are totally guided by your value system, your rules, your Constitution of India. You don't care whether Laluji was your Mamaji's friend or not. What does it matter? Now you are in a situation where you take decisions based on the rules, regulations, law, and only in public interest. So we have to present both. I hope I have cleared. There are many controversial matters. So you don't have to be so detailed as I have just now said. If only you mentioned, sir, there are some who feel this way. One sentence would have elevated you to a level which is indeed the desirable level.
Yes, sir.
You don't have to support the government blindly. You have to be aware that there are some people who are opposing it. They are apprehensive. And the government has not done anything in most of the matters to dispel those apprehensions or suspicions.
So I'll try to incorporate as more in my answers. Although, sir, I think I tried to mention these in my answers.
You did. Yeah, in some of the matters you did.
Yeah.
I'm not denying that.
Yes, sir.
You see,
I'll-
what you have to do is, you have to say that it's not your opinion. So there are some who feel like this. Then the matter ends. You unnecessarily try to make even the UAPA thing and all that. Why do you want to say that it is also your opinion? You simply say, sir, some who feel that there is a need for a country like India, which has ISI meddling with Indian security systems, terrorism, which is totally supported by Pakistan, and things like that, we require UAPA. There are some who we believe, as long as it is targeted only to people like Lashkar-e-Taiba or agents of Pakistan or ISI, it's good. But then it is also being used against so many journalists. It's also being used against so many intellectuals, professors of JNU, etc. And a Jesuit priest, Stan Swami. So that's not your opinion. There is an allegation that they don't deserve to be harassed under this law. Never make yourself the creator of that opinion. It is existing already.
Yes, sir.
Then that gives you tremendous protection. Instead of you trying to say this, you should be an observer. How are you concerned with either Stan Swami or NIA?
Yes, sir.
First of all, did you ever meet Stan Swami? I don't know. Maybe you met, maybe
No,
you
sir.
didn't. Did you ever know about this organization called NIA, which was created in the year 2008, December, by an act of
Only heard of
parliament?
it. Only heard
So,
of it.
and the chief is nowadays chosen from only among those personally known to the Honorable Prime Minister. Gujarat Kada. Some old Asthana fellow, he's retiring
Yes.
this month. He's now made Delhi Police Commissioner.
360 degrees.
You see, you are living in a country where it is not all Communist Party of China. Xi Jinping is different. Narendra Modi is not Xi Jinping. Every Indian is not a member of the BJP. They are not members of any political party. I am not a member of any political party. And I have not been deprived of my ability to see the truth. So don't get disappointed. I see visible signs of you feeling, Arey, aisa kya hua? Don't bother. This is only a mock interview. And we wanted you to get the 215.
Yes, sir.
Anything else you want to do? Say, ask.
No, that is all, sir. Thank you so much. I'll work on better
First of all,
infrastructure.
be very careful. Don't offer yourself as a sacrificial lamb. Say, I'm an observer type. Listen and respond. And very brief answers, 2-3 sentences will do. There are some who say like this, there are some who say like this. A conflicting views.
Yes.
But keep quiet. Okay.
Okay.
All the best then. God bless you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Masuri. I'll see you. I'm coming there. Labasna.
Namaste.
Okay. Bye-bye.